Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. How's everybody doing? Let's see. My name is Dr. Jamil Flores. I am I've been working with Kaplan for the last 10 years. I've been helping many international medical graduates as well as US med students in their pathway to residency. And today I'm happy that you're all here. I'm gonna talk about the new USMLE service transition process. So I know things are changing in January, and if you're here, you probably have some questions about what is going to happen, how is this going to affect me. So that's why I'm here. I want to answer all your questions. I'm going to talk a little bit about the service transition, and then I'll take all your questions. Um, can everybody see my screen? If you can, feel free to send message on the chat. Thank you. Thank you, Maria Jose. All right. A little bit about me while we give some time to see if more people are joining. Thank you, Rick. I am, like I said, I'm Dr. Jamil Flores. I went to medical school at Brown University, the Warren Alpert Medical School in Providence, Rhode Island. I graduated and I worked at a child and adolescent psychiatric hospital doing child and adolescent psychiatry for a couple years. Um, and then I moved down to Florida and I've been working with Kaplan, helping US med students and IMGs all over the world with the process of applying for residency. I also travel to many of the countries. So if you can, let me know what country you're joining us from. And if I'm gonna be there soon, I'll share it through social media or something so you can come see me in person. Colombia, very good. Actually, Colombia is I might be there March. I'm not 100% sure yet, but my plan is to go visit Colombia again this year. I was there a couple years ago. I was in Medellin, I was in Barranquilla, Bogota, Bucaramanga, Cali, and I think those were the five places I was. Abraham from Mexico, bienvenido. I was also in Mexico 2 years ago. I was in Mazatlan for a conference. Nicaragua, very nice. I was there in Managua. Guatemala. In Guatemala, I was there just for a day in Tegucigalpa. Ecuador. To Ecuador, I've been many, many times. Um, I was just there a couple months ago in Quito for a conference, but I would also go to Guayaquil, Cuenca. I love Cuenca, very nice. Where else in Ecuador was I? I went to a couple smaller towns that I'd never been to this time. I can't remember. I can't remember the towns, but I love Ecuador. Brazil, very nice. I also speak Portuguese. So I studied abroad in Rio de Janeiro, Napuki. Um, my plan is to go visit Brazil again this year for a conference. We'll see if that will happen. Marlenis, Dominican Republic, bienvenida. I actually got married in Dominican Republic in La Zona Colonial and in the Santo Domingo Country Club was the party, I believe. We had a great time. I love the food. My wife is half Dominican, so we went to Adrian Tropical for the rehearsal dinner. All right. So yeah, NYC, Wheeling. I missed you. Yeah, NYC. Obviously, I've been there. There's our center in New York for Kaplan. So welcome. All right. Enough about all my travels. Let's get started. Thank you for joining us. You can see my slides, right? So we'll start talking about what is the USMLE service transition. Okay, so what's going to happen is, and some of it already happened. They're changing who's going to service the exams for IMGs and US Med students. Okay, so in the past, when you register for the exam, you did everything through the ECFMG. Okay, the Educational Commission for Foreign Medical Graduates. Now, one of the biggest question is, so now I don't have to go through ECFMG. You still do because ECFMG is still in charge of certifying IMG. So you still need to be ECFMG certified, but now you won't schedule or service your exams through ECFMG, okay? It's going to change to the FSMB, which is the Federation of State Medical Boards. Okay, that's for IMGs. For um, for US med students, it's going to change, and for US med students, it's not going to change that much. The only change will be for step three. So in the past, you would take step three through the FSMB, and then starting next week, it's going to change, and it's all going to be done through the NBME. Okay, but this is some major restructuring that they're doing. They're saying it to be more centralized. It's going to be easier for students to know exactly where they have to go. Because in the past, what they would be like, well, if it's step one or step two, I have to go here. If it's step three, I have to go here. So now you're going to be able to service your exams all in the same place. Okay. So why are they changing it? They're saying it's going to simplify the experience. It's going to improve efficiency and consistency. They want to reduce all sorts of confusion. Um, by putting everything in one place, okay? And it's going to separate IMGs and it's going to separate US Med students, but you're all both going to be applying through the same process for the match. So there's not going to be any difference there. It's just who's going to service your exams, okay? All right, so phase one already finished, okay? Phase one was for IMGs. So like I said, it change all your USMLE services to the Federation of State Medical Boards, the FSMB. If you if you started applying for an exam and you didn't finish it prior to the service period, through when the change happened, you're gonna have to reapply, start all over again. Okay. If you had finished your application, but you hadn't taken the exam, you don't have to do a thing. It'll change to the FSMB and they will send you a new permit. If you had the old permit, you can still use it, but you don't have to do it all over again. It transferred everything on January 12th. As of January 12th, everything is now in FSMB. You don't have to worry. Only if your application was incomplete. If you were applying for the exam, but you weren't able to finish it, then they will issue you a refund, and then you'll have to start again and reapply through the FSMB portal. Okay, clear? Now, phase two is for US Med students. I'm like I see a lot of international countries here. I don't know if we have a lot of US Med students, but if you're a US Med student, just know that your transition is happening this weekend, and it's gonna move your step three. Step one and step two will continue to be serviced through NBME, but step three will change, and it would also be in NBME instead of FSMB. Okay, I know there's a lot of abbreviations, but you'll get the hang of it. All right, so phase one, it's going to apply to step one, step two CK, and step three. It was completed January 12th. So if you haven't applied for any of those exams, now you'll just go to the FSMB USMLE portal and you will apply there. Before you do that, you still have to go to ECFMG to get certified. And they're the ones who are going to verify your identity. They're going to verify that you're eligible to take the exams. They're going to contact your school. So if you hadn't done that, you still have to go through ECFMG. If you started it but didn't finish it, you still have to finish the ECFMG process and then start the exam application. Yes, we will be recording and it'll be shared. We'll send you in a couple of days. We'll send a link for you to be able to see the entire presentation. Okay. All right. So also for those, ECFMG is also known as Intel. ECFMG is a part of Intel. So if you were log into my Intel, they're no longer going to be servicing the exam. You will do it through FSMB. And for things as registering for the exam, if you need to ask for a score report, if you need to ask for a score recheck, if you need to ask for an extension of your eligibility period, anything customer support will be done through FSMB as of January 12th. So if you haven't done it, just know now you have to go through FSMB. And they have a new portal to take care of IMGs. If you're a US student, like I said, it will only apply to step three. All step three services will move from FSMB to the NBME. So you will register for it just like you did for step one and step two through my USMLE portal. Okay. Now, here are the dates. I didn't put the dates for the phase one because it already passed. So as of January 12th, it was completed. We did get it. I got an email, everybody got an email saying the service transition has been completed. So now everything will go through FSMB. But for US Med students, it's happening tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the last day that you can access to service your step three through FSMB. There will be an outage between January 23rd, which is, I believe, Friday, to the 26th. Hopefully, you weren't testing during this date. If you were, not the end of the world. You just have to make sure you print it or you print your scheduling permit before tomorrow so you can go and test on your date. But if you haven't, then after January 26th, everything will be done through the NBME portal. And you've done that for step one and step two, so it'll be pretty straightforward. So nothing to be afraid of. It is a major restructuring, but it's not a big deal. It's not gonna have a huge impact. The most important thing were you to be aware of the dates when there was gonna be a when the transition was going to be taking place. In case you were taking your exam during that time, you knew you had to get your score, your scheduling permit ahead of time so you wouldn't miss, because without a scheduling permit, you wouldn't be able to take the exam. Okay. And if you were in the process of applying and you didn't finish it, you have to restart it. If you finish applying but hadn't taken the exam, just don't worry now. It just automatically transferred during the transition period. And now you just go to the new portal to service your exam. Okay, things that will not change. Okay, so this is good. Don't be afraid. The exam content will be the same. You will still be taking the same exam, step one, step two, and step three. The content will not change. It's not going to change the scoring. So it'll still be step one will still be pass fail. Step two will still have a three-digit score. They're not increasing the passing score with the service transition. Um, the ECFMG eligibility requirements will still be the same, okay? And you still have to do it through ECFMG, okay? So that's the biggest thing. Don't go to FSMB to try to be certified to be able to take the exams. You still have to go through ECFMG to verify your identity, to verify your credentials with your medical school that you're eligible for the exam. And then once you have that, you can go to FSMB and pay and register for the exams. Willie asked, does that apply to Puerto Rico? Good question. I believe Puerto Rico is, since it is part of the US, and I'm originally from Puerto Rico, I was born in Ponce. I believe they're considered US Med students, so you still would go through NBME, right? So if you that's a good question because I didn't go to school at the UPR, but my friends who did, I think they still, yes, they still scheduled their exam through NBME. So the change for Puerto Rico would be that for your step three, you will apply now for it through NBME instead of FSMB. Okay. Puerto Rico, the universities in Puerto Rico, I don't think went through ECFMG certification. If they did, then you're considered a IMG. I don't believe so. I'm not 100% sure. That's a good question. But if you give me your email, Willie, I'll look into it and I'll get back to you. I'll send you an email letting you know whether I mean logic would say you would do US med students because Puerto Rico is part of the US, but logic is not always it's not always logical, right? All right, thank you. Thank you, Willie. I'll get back to you. I'll write it down later. All right, and the test format is still the same. It's not going to change. So step one will still continue to be an 8-hour exam, 7 blocks of 1 hour each, with one block of break. And you all know once you finish the block, your break starts counting until you start the next block. And if you need to use the restroom, if you need to eat anything, you will do it in between blocks, and all that time is counting. You have a total of up to an hour if you watch the instructions ahead of time. If not, it takes about 15 minutes to watch the instructions, and then you only have 45 minutes of break. So I strongly recommend watching. There is the video with the instructions that you can watch ahead of time, so you gain 15 minutes of break. You probably are going to need it. And you don't want to be rushing, if you're taking a lunch break or a bathroom break, you don't want to be rushing because you're running out of break time. Because if you do run out of break time, it starts taking time off of your next block if you have no more break time. Okay. It's a total 8 hours it can't go over. So don't do that. You don't want to be stressed out about having to rush your lunch or your bathroom breaks. Okay. So none of this is changing. Exam content scoring, eligibility, test format. So it's only administrative service that are changing. Who is going to manage your scores, your registration? And now it's all uh, one portal for international medical graduates, one portal for US med students. All right. So what are the key takeaways? Like I said, it's a major admin shift, not anything related to the exam. So don't stress, don't worry about is the exam going to be different? Is it going to change? The only thing it's going to change is where you register. And the scheduling will still be the same. So it's still through Prometric. Prometric are the centers that offer the exams. So once you have your scheduling permit, then you go to the Prometric website and you schedule your exam during your eligibility period. Okay. If you need to change your eligibility period, then if you're an IMG, you'd go through FSMB now. If you're a US med student, you would go through NBME. If you have to change your date of the exam, but it's still within your eligibility period, you don't have to go to FSMB or NBME. You just go to Prometric and change your exam. If you do it at least 45 days before your exam date, there's no charge. If you do it within 45 days, depending on how much time there is, you would have to pay a fee. You can change it up to the day before your exam, but not on the day of the exam. You can't change it on the day of your exam. Okay? I see a couple questions. We're almost done with this, and then I'll just answer all your questions. Okay? So there we go. We're done. Now I'm going to take questions. Sandy asked, I had uploaded my identity verification on FSMB when I took step 3 before. I need to do a retake and notarize this transfer. So you're a US Med student, correct? If you're a US Med student, had you finished the step 3 registration process or was it still incomplete? So that's all. If you did okay. So you had finished the registration, so it should all transfer to through NB to NBME next week. Okay. If your exam was scheduled Friday or Saturday, Sundays they don't offer the exam. If it was scheduled Friday or Saturday, you need to make sure you get your scheduling permit now because it'll close tomorrow. But if your application was complete, everything will transfer as of next week. You don't have to worry about it. If your application was incomplete, you'd have to restart it, but they will refund you anything you've paid and then you do it again. Okay, I took, but have not registered for the retake. Okay, so then when you register for the retake, you would do it through my NBME. And that's a good question. I don't think they will ask you to verify your identity again through like the notarized count. Um, well, it's not the notarized camp, it's the notarized form. So yes, when you apply for the exam, I believe you have to anytime you apply for the exam, you have to do the notarized form. All right. Any other questions? Alexandra says, do we need to re-upload all the info we put in my Intel to FSMB and do we have to create a new profile? I am an IMG. So no, everything you had in my Intel on ECF and on ECFMG will be transferred to FSMB. The only thing that will not transfer is if you had an incomplete application for an exam, then they will issue you a refund and you'll have to start the application process again. If you If you had finished the exam application, it will transfer completely. And if you weren't in the process of applying for an exam, but you took step one and you haven't registered for step two yet, everything from step one will transfer first to FSMB, and you'll be able to get your, if you need to, a score report or anything like that, you do it through FSMB. Everything will transfer. Now, you will still have access to my Intel and ECFMG because through them you'll be able to tell your, your steps to completing ECFMG certification. Okay. So ECFMG certification is a completely different thing than exam registration. So for IMGs, the ECFMG certification process will still be handled by ECFMG. Okay, and you log into them and you'll be able to see your steps and what you need to be ECFMG certified. But if you need to register for an exam, whether it's step one, step two CK, or step three, you'll now do it through FSMB. If you need, if you took the exam and you're waiting for the results and they come back and you want a score recheck, well, now you have to do it through FSMB. If you need, if you need a score report, you do it through FSMB. If you finish the exam registration and you need to change your eligibility period, you do it through FSMB now if you're an IMG. If you had already scheduled the appointment, your exam date, and you just need to change the date within the eligibility period, then that would be directly through Prometric. No need to go through FSMB. Okay? All right. So my Intel will now change to, let me see, go back. Can you do a quick review of how to use FSMB to register for an exam after already having applied for ECFMG certification? Okay, so now FSMB has a USMLE portal. You just look it up, FSMB USMLE portal. You go there, and then all the steps to apply for the exam you do through them. So you'd have to pay the fee as long as you've already done your ECFMG, started to apply for your ECFMG certification, and that's through my Intel. If you haven't done that, you cannot register for the exam on FSMB until you go to ECFMG and start your ECFMG certification process. Okay. All right. Hopefully that answers your question. Anything you did at everything you would have had to do to register for the exam on ECFMG is the same thing you'll have to do. It's just a different website. So instead of going to the ECFMG portal, you'll go to the FSMB portal, and then you'll submit the form. I think you have to have it notarized. You pay the fee, and then they'll give you. It takes a couple of days. They'll give you your scheduling permit. The entire process takes about 2 weeks. Okay. So my Intels will now change to FSMB. No, just where you'll apply to take a USMLE exam will change from my Intel to FSMB, but you still have ECFMG my Intel. You'll still have to use that for your ECFMG certification process. They're the ones who are gonna verify your eligibility, all of that, that you're ECFMG certified. So you register through ECFMG for certification. Once you have that, you can go to FSMB to schedule your exam. So FSMB is only for you to register for your exam, like not schedule. Schedule is the Prometric, sorry. So you go and start your ECFMG certification process if you haven't done so. If you do, or once you've done it, you move on to FSMB, where you're going to register for the different exams for all USMLE Step 1, USMLE Step 2 CK, and USMLE Step 3. Okay. Step 3, you don't need it for the match. You can take it during residency. And then once you have all those, once you have Step 1 and Step 2, you go back to ECFMG to get your ECFMG certification, which you will need in order to be able to start residency. You need to be ECFMG certified. The USMLE exams, Step 1 and Step 2 CK, are part of the requirements to be ECFMG certified. So you will need to have those. It doesn't change. You still have to take the USMLE exams. But once you go to register for them or any customer support, if score recheck, score uh, eligibility period changes, anything like that will go through FSMB. And then FSMB is just to register for the exams. When you've done the exams, then you go back to ECFMG for your certification. I know it's a little bit confusing, but it's pretty straightforward. It's just changing what website you will go to register for your USMLE exams. Okay. ECFMG certifications stay through ECFMG. It's in the name, ECFMG certification, right? FSMB doesn't make a lot of sense because it's Federation of State Medical Boards, but they're the ones who are going to service your USMLE exams for IMG. So if you're an IMG, your USMLE exams will be serviced by FSMB, and that's who you're going to use to register and pay for the exams. Okay. If you're a US Med student, you will continue to use the NBME, my USMLE, like you've done for step one and step two, but now you will also do it for step three. Um, you don't have to go to the FSMB for step three like you used to in the past. Okay. All that will change starting next Monday. Um, so yeah. So I see my intel is here to stay. Got it. Correct. They're here to stay. All right. I am studying for step one and I need to complete the certification now. The all right, so what certification? The ECFMG certification. So if you need to start the ECFMG certification process, you will go to ECFMG and my intel's to start your ECFMG certification process, and they will start your making sure your verification, ID verification. They will contact your school to make sure you are eligible to take the USMLE exams. Okay. Now, once you have that, then you move on to FSMB to actually register and pay for your exam. Okay. Can you still take step three before matching, or is it dependent on the state? That's a good question. For usually you could take it before matching, and we strongly recommend. During the service transition, what the website says is if you're a US Med student, you have to wait until you have your degree to be able to take step three. Okay. And for IMGs, in the past IMGs, you could take step three. It would vary based on the states. Most people would take it before residency. But now on the new website, and we'll have to look into this because I don't think on the website it says they give you a step by step of what to do, and they would say, "Oh, go to ECFMG to be ECFMG certified. Go to FSMB to register for the exams." And then for step three, it says once you start residency, you can take step three. So I don't know if that's a change as in the past where students could take step three um, before residency, and we strongly recommend students to do so if possible. And in the past, it's always been possible. With this change, the wording they used on their announcement seemed like you had to wait until you started residency, but I think that's not accurate. I think you can take it depending on the state where you take it, that you can take it before residency. But for that, now you would go directly to FSMB and they will be able to answer that question. Okay. All right. Let me stop sharing questions. All right. So somebody asked, what is the website for FSMB? I'm going to put it here on the chat. It's usmle.fsmb.org. Okay. And that's where you'll be able to register and for your USMLE exams. Can you clarify the name of the different types of ECFMG certification? There's an ECFMG certification to apply step one and step two CK, and there is a further ECFMG certification process for step three. Okay, so ECFMG certification. There's only one ECFMG certification, right? And you need it in order to be able to start residency. Okay. So when you go to ECFMG, you will start the ECFMG certification process, but you're not going to be ECFMG certified until you meet all the requirements, which includes taking the USMLE exams. So yes, you will have had to start the ECFMG certification process, and they'll give you an ID number, but you're not ECFMG certified until you graduate, until you have your step one and your step two CK scores and a couple other things. So, and then once you're ECFMG certified, then you can start residency. All right. And then once you're in residency, you can take step three. So you have to be, in order to take step three, you have to be ECFMG certified because you need it in order to be able to start residency. If you have taken step one with ECFMG in the past but haven't made my intel, will you have taken step one but haven't made my intel, will the document submitted be transferred to FFMB? Okay, so if you took step one already with ECFMG, you started the ECFMG certification process. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given you the scheduling permit for step one. So you were already in my intel basically, because my ECFMG is part of my intel. Um, but then if you've already taken step one, all of that will be transferred to FSMB. There's nothing you need to send to them again. It's only if you were in the process of applying for step two, let's say you started applying for step two and you didn't finish the application, then you'd have to resubmit everything for FSMB. If you've already taken step one, you got your score, you're done, and now you're in between step one and step two. Next time you go to apply for step two, you just go to the FSMB website, the website that I put in there, and you apply for your step two. Okay. And then ECFMG will just go back to get your ECFMG certification. All right. How long should I wait before contacting ECFMG or FSMB if registered on FSMB over 2 weeks ago? Okay, Aaron. And so reads exam registration pending medical school enrollment, currently last semester student. You're a US Med student, correct? And this is for step three. Let me see if Aaron. So if you register for FSMB, USIMG Med School in Mexico, register step one last year, didn't take it, planning it next month. Okay. So you started applying through FSMB after the change took place, correct? Okay. So yes, usually it takes 2 weeks. They did say in the beginning it might be a little rough. It might be a little bit delayed, the processing because they're fairly new. They just changed the service. Give it another week or two, and then you can what could happen also could be that they're trying to reach your school and your school hasn't responded. That's the most common case of students who application is delayed a little bit. They need to verify where you with your school that you were uh, enrolled and in good standing and all that. And sometimes our schools in Latin America, sometimes they don't respond right away, so it might take a little bit longer. They might just be waiting for your school to respond. So I would give it some time, but you did it right. So you went, if it was after the transition took place on January 12th, so that'd be a little bit less than 2 weeks ago. Um, yes, you did it right. You just have to wait until your school verifies it, and then they'll give you the permit to take the exams for step one. All right. What is a couple of other things? The pathways. Yes, the pathways. That is the couple of other things that you would need for ECFMG certification. I'm not going to go into the pathways in details because they change every year. Um, but yes, it would be the pathways or, whatever they will have in place to replace the step 2 CS exam. Now, right now, it's the different pathways. Yes, Rick, that is what I meant by the couple of other things, the pathways. In my opinion, the pathways made it easier or more difficult than the old exam. It all depends on your situation, right? The CS exam before the pandemic used to be a pretty expensive exam. It cost about $1,500 to register for, but you could only take it in a center. There were only four centers in the US where you could take it. So you would have to travel to the US and get a visa if you needed a visa. So it was expensive. $1,500 to register for the exam, plus plane ticket, plus hotel stays, plus, car or transportation, all that stuff just to take an exam. It was expensive. So it all depends on your unique situation, whether you're eligible through pathway one or a different what pathways if you have to go through the last pathway, which is basically come to the US and do a mini CX exam, that makes it harder. It's harder. You still have to travel and finding a doctor that can, um, that can watch you in a clinical setting and give you evaluations is just harder than actually registering for the exam and just going for the exam. But if you qualify through some of the other pathways, then that makes it easier. All right. Any other questions? We still got some time. I think I've answered every question that's been here. Is there a syllabus or study guide for the USMLE step one? Yes. If you go to let's see, if you go to usmle.org, that would be, and this is another website. Doesn't have, this is not where you register or anything like that. This is where you find all the information about the USMLE. So just go to usmle.org and they'll give you what you need to you choose step one, and there's an overview, and then there's a content outline and specifications. So you'll be able to see like a syllabus of what you need to know that's going to be tested on step one. Same thing for step two and step three. Is there any user guide available for FSMB? Not that I know of. If you go to even on the USMLE exam, you can click on you just have to go to the USMLE Service Transition Information Hub. That's where I got all the information. You just go there and explain step by step. And then once you go to the FSMB USMLE portal, it should be pretty straightforward. There's no guide available, that lists specifically all those steps you need to take. But once you start it should be pretty straightforward. For step three accommodations starting tomorrow, you also apply in the My USMLE portal. Not starting tomorrow, it would be starting on the 26th once the transition completes. So if you are taking step three, if you're taking step three on Friday or Saturday, you need to get your scheduling permit before tomorrow when it will close. After tomorrow will be the last day that if you're taking step three, if you need accommodations as well, but you won't have enough time to get step three accommodations. So now you'll have to wait until the transition is over. And if you're a US Med student, you would go to my USMLE portal to apply for accommodations starting next Monday. If you're an IMG student, you'll go to my to the FSMB portal to apply for accommodations. If you started the application process, everything will if you had finished the application process, everything will transfer. If the application wasn't complete, then you'll have to restart on the new portal and you'll get a refund if you've already paid for it. All right. Is the visa processing harder now for IMGs to get into the US or no, given the current US administration? That's a good question. And that's a very, in terms of visa, it's very unique based on your unique situation, depending on, your on the country you're coming from. And yes, now there is a list of countries that are not getting visas. So if you're in one of the countries on that list, it will be harder to get. If not, it's like any other time, it'll depend on your current situation, but it's not, that's just up to the Department of State. They'll decide. I do get questions about the HB1 visa, right? And a lot of people are afraid that they will have to pay a fee of $100,000 to get the visa. Just know that if you apply for residency, you don't have to get an H-1B visa. You could get a J-1 visa. I believe it's a J-1 visa. There's no fee for that one, so you still can come and do residency on a J-1 visa. Okay. Rick is making a pitch there to get a study group. That's great. Also, throwing a pitch there at Kaplan, we're always working with IMGs and US med students trying to help them in the process of getting into residency. So we've always focused on USMLE preparation, but very soon we're going to start not just offering USMLE preparation, but we're going to start preparing for residency. So it's going to include a lot more than just exam preparation. We're going to be working with you, helping you, we're going to be able to offer uh, clinical experience, rotations, letter of recommendation, everything you need to to be successful in demand. So keep an eye, follow Kaplan on social media and things like that to keep up with the latest information on Kaplan. We're really going to be focusing on helping students for the in their entire pathway to residency. And if you want more information about the pathway to residency, I also do a pathway to residency event every month. So I'm going to be doing two webinars a month. One will be, special topics like this one that started in January, so it's a good topic for January. In February, I'm going to talk about alternate pathways to coming to practicing medicine in the U.S. outside of the match. That's always another question. There are a lot of states now that are offering an alternate pathway for physicians who've been practicing for a while in their country and want to come to the US without having to do residency. So if that's your case, make sure to go to our website and register for that event. That's going to be in February. Um, Rue, I missed the very beginning of your talk. Where can I access the recording? I believe it's going to be emailed to everyone who registered. So in a couple days, you should be getting a link with the recording for anyone who registered for the event. Okay. If you don't get it, I'm gonna put my email address here. Just send me an email, and once I have the link, or send me an email saying, "Hey, I never got the recording," and I'll send you the link once I have it. Here is my email address. Has the number of available residency spots increased compared to pre-pandemic, or is it still the same? Great question, Rick. It has increased significantly um, because there is a huge doctor shortage in the US. So we're assigning funds to attack that. That's a public health problem. And instead of the way Congress has, they've assigned funds to increase the number of residency positions. Okay. So programs can get funds if they increase the number of residents, because we want to, especially in primary care. Um, so there's all in the last 10 years, I mean, actually, for the last 15 or 20 years, every year the number of residents seat positions has steadily gone up. And that you can tell in the percentage of IMGs who are successfully matching. 15 years ago, it wasn't that great. It was about 38 to 39% IMGs who applied for the match. The acceptance rate was about 38 to 39%. Nowadays it's close to 60. It's about 58 point something, almost 59% of IMGs. And not just that, but there are more IMGs applying, so the number of IMGs successfully getting into residency has increased steadily over the last 10, 15 years. Okay. So there really has never been a better time to apply because of the doctor shortage. We are increasing the number of residency positions, and we're not graduating too many more U.S. med students that we usually do every year. It's not like we're building a lot of new U.S. med schools and graduating more. The ones that are not really admitting more than they usually can. So all these increase in residency positions are usually being filled by international medical graduates. Can I visit the Kaplan Center and get some information about anything? Yes, uh, you can always visit our center. It's in Midtown Manhattan. Uh, you can always visit and they'll show you around. If you contact our website, let them know ahead of time that you'll be there so someone's expecting you. But yes, you can stop by. Do you offer in-person sessions at Kaplan? We do. So in our New York Center, we have our in-person course. Um, and it also comes with personalized, tutoring, advising, all of that in person. We also offer it online for those who can't come to New York to study. For step one, it's usually a year. For step two, it's about 9 months. Is there any medical schools to go to in the US to update year of graduation? Well, I wouldn't recommend that because med school in the US, it's really expensive. It's going to cost you, at least I don't know about $250,000 to go through the entire med school process. That's a lot of money just to update your year of graduation. If you graduated a long time ago and you've been practicing in your country, then sign up for my next webinar on special topics in February, where I'm going to talk about how if you graduated a long time ago and you've been practicing in your country, now you can come to the US and not have to do residency. There are a lot of states who are looking for internationally trained physicians who've been practicing to come to the US, and then you'll be under a provisional license for 2 years. So you'll be seeing patients and all of that, but you'll be um, under the supervision of a licensed US physician. And after those 2 years, if everything goes well, and then they'll be able to give you an unrestricted license. So it's a quicker pathway than residency. If you just graduated, you still have to do residency. But like I said, residency right now, especially if you do um, uh, primary care specialty, your chances of matching will be much higher than in the past. Patricia says, hello, I'm an IMG from Cuba. I've already passed step one in my Intel. Everything appears as accepted. My question is, when I apply for the permit for step two, we'll need to submit an additional document from Cuba. Uh, that's a good question. Usually, they verify your eligibility through my Intels for ECFMG. Once they have that, they should have that. Um, but it did say if your application was incomplete and then you have to apply again through FSMB, it would include contacting your school for verification. But you wouldn't have to submit anything. They will try to contact the school for you. But hopefully, since you've already taken step one and you're on the My Intel, everything should transfer. And hopefully you don't have to do that because I'm guessing that's not going to be too easy. All right. For older graduates, is there any way to update your graduation rate? We should talk about that. There is, but it's expensive. All right. I guess I'm not informed about anything prior to USMLE Step 3 anymore. The thing being mentioned pathway. Is this something that will replace the prior Step 2 CS? Yes. Yes, Sandy. So during the pandemic, the Step 2 CS exam was suspended because of the pandemic, and IMGs not being able to travel to the US and them not being able to run this exam, which had 12 standardized patients because of the physical contact during a pandemic and all that. So they suspended it and then they decided to permanently get rid of it. And now, in order to verify your clinical skills and your English proficiency, every two things that were verified through the Step 2 CS exam. Now there are different pathways um, to for you to demonstrate your clinical skills. And then you also have to take the OET exam, the occupational English test, to verify your English proficiency. Okay. However, if you had already taken step 2 CS and you passed it, you don't have to worry about the pathways because um, if you've taken it and you passed it, they'll usually honor it and you don't have to go through the pathways. So this is only for IMGs, or will this be also expected from US grad? That is only for IMGs. Um, US grads um, will not have to do the pathways. As an IMG, do you have to pass OET also? What time is it good to take? Yes. So if you're applying for ECFMG certification, you need to pass the OET exam. What time is a good time? I mean, if you're proficient in English, you can take it anytime. It shouldn't be too hard, right? Um, if you are struggling with English, then you have to um, practice a little bit more so that exam is a little bit easier. There is a OET guide. We offer it at Kaplan every now and then. I think you can purchase it on Amazon as well. Um, but you can take it anytime. We do not have OET prep courses. There is a book, but we don't have a course specifically for the OET. All right. Well, we're almost at time. Hopefully this was helpful. I know it's a hot topic because this transition happened in January, and I just want to make sure that peace of mind, right? Because I know anytime there's a change, we get stressed, we don't know what to do, we want information, and I just want to be able to tell you what's happening, tell you not to freak out. It's not a huge change, it's just an admin change of where you're going to go to register for your exam. But in terms of the exams and everything like that, everything is staying the same. Don't need to worry. The only thing that would have been stressful is if you were scheduled to take the exam during the time where the transition was taking place, and you just had to make sure you got your scheduling permit ahead of time so that you didn't wait until to print it out, and then it was during that transition and you couldn't access it, and then you'd have to miss your exam. So other than that, don't worry about it. It's a lot easier to understand where to apply than to actually take the exam. And if you can all take the exams, you're gonna do just fine. All right. So thank you. Follow us. You're welcome. I do Pathway to Residency events where I talk about the entire process of how to get to residency. So make sure you sign up for those. Thank you all for joining us. And I wish you all the best of luck with your exams and your pathway to residency. All right. Thank you. I'm looking for, let me see. Willie, I'm getting your email so I can find out about Puerto Rico because that's a good question. All right, thank you all for joining us. Hope to see you soon in one of our other events. And if you're interested in on any of our courses, follow us on our website. Like I said, there's going to be some exciting changes, and we're going to prepare you to not only for the USMLE but for the entire match. So make sure you follow us. And we also, if you're interested in online courses, we're also doing our live online courses. We're giving you free trials. So a trial is you can actually sit on the actual live online course and see how the class takes place. So if you like the format, if you like our faculty, which are top-notch faculty, and you think this is something that can help you prepare for the exam, give register. You can find it on the same page where you found this event. You'll find all the free events, and you can sign up for it. All right. Thank you all. Have a great night. Uh, do we have to email you for trial courses? No, just go to the Kaplan Medical website, kaplanmedical.com. Click on the exam you're interested in, then go to where it says there's a arrow, it says more, go to free events or and free, there's also free trials, and you can sign up for there for free. All right. Thank you all and have a great night. Best of luck. Thank you. Good night.